Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. As you all know, it's a year of magical learning. And today we're here with Chris and True. We are on book 92. And, like I said, we are doing this every single day. And if you guys are new to the show, please, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and like the video and share it, whatever you need, and come back and see the next book. We are always going to be doing this, and if you like to learn things and discuss things, this is a show for you. So let's get on with the show. I have Chris here to tell us about what we are going to talk about.
Yeah, we got a special night session for you tonight. So yeah, today's book is book 92, and it is a book called Nonviolent Communication, a Language of Life-Changing Tools for Healthy by relationship.
Healthy by relationship.
I think I wrote down the title wrong. Anyway, it's Nonviolent Communication by the author Marshall Rosenberg. So I forget, actually. I feel like you read this one, correct? No.
Okay. You and I talked about it. I think,
yeah,
it's one of those things where, these kind of books, more of the corporate ones to read.
right. So this, I do remember we talked about this one on a anti-library or anti-book club night that we had. I think somebody brought this one to it, so I think we had a long conversation around it. So I know you're familiar with the book, but at a high level for anybody tuning in, this book explains how focusing on people's underlying needs and making observations instead of judgments can revolutionize the way that you interact with somebody, even your worst enemies, it says. So it's really all about identifying your feelings, mirroring back somebody else's feelings, and getting to that underlying need that they're trying to address and express in order to find that connection point to really, this is mostly around conflict conversations and stuff like that, but you can use this in really any form of communication if you want to. It actually reminds me a lot of that book, Never Split the Difference, which I know that you read. Very, very similar in the way that, how that FBI negotiator negotiated with people. I mean, it was a lot about Chris Voss. Yeah, it was a lot about reflecting back and mirroring back what they were saying and making sure that they were feel like they were heard and diving into a deeper to the black swan, I guess, if you will, that he calls it, the unknown that will change the whole entire conversation. But the only way you really can find that is if you get somebody talking and communicating and sharing their thoughts and feelings till you can kind of unearth that to be able to find that connection point. So that's really what nonviolent communication is all about, just approaching conflicts and communication with people in a different manner. So this book in particular, I'll go ahead and fire up the screen share. My reflection title from this one was always be impeccable with your words. So I don't know if that rings familiar to you, but that was actually the first agreement of the book, the 4 agreements that we talked about in the past, which was always be impeccable with your words. And with nonviolent communication, I mean, that's what this is really all about. It's incredibly being incredibly selective of the words that you use and how you communicate with somebody else, to be cognizant and conscious of how they feel and how you feel, and sharing that with other people. Like, I mean, you have to dig deep and to go like, this is how I'm feeling. These are what my needs are. And then helping other people to share how they feel and what their needs are, to be able to find that, connection point where you guys can move forward in a shared path together. Words matter. Like we've talked about this many different times. But that's one of our human superpowers. It's just our ability to communicate with each other through words is something that I feel like is one of the most amazing things that humans do, and sometimes I'm still even baffled by how the first words and language even developed. Honestly, I mean, I've thought about this a lot, and I just still can't get over the fact of someday, it's amazing that we're even able to have thoughts and conversations and ideas and imagination in our own mind, but somebody taking that to the next level, being able to, you know, express what's going on in their head, get that across to somebody else, form words around it to be able to remember what, you know, what you guys connected on in the first place, then develop a language out of that, then develop all this other stuff so we can, you know, work together and build, you know, the societies and cultures and all the amazing things that we build together. I mean, that's all through the power of language and communication and words. I mean, it just really matters, you know. I mean, it still blows my mind thinking like, how did that ever happen? Like, I mean, I don't really get it. I mean, we can talk about this when when I'm done here, but like, I mean, I still don't really understand how that those first connection points were built between two people of forming a word and forming language around it. But with that said, though, I mean, you know, words are incredibly powerful. It has the ability to literally change worlds, and you know, that's what, you know, this whole year of magical learning's been for myself, and I know for you, it's been an important, you know, words matter to you and this whole entire thing, and that's what nonviolent communication can do for us all. If we're able to better communicate our thoughts and our feelings and our needs with each other, we'll have a more fulfilling life together. So yeah, I mean, I guess sum it up, always be impeccable with your words, and it's really important. Choose them wisely and respect them. Respect the words, you know, that are coming out of your mouth, because they matter, and how they're interpreted by other people matters. So I'll love to pause there and get your thoughts.
So I think the thought that comes to my mind is, you know, it reminds me of the saying I keep saying, you know, a lot. I'm probably say too much, but for me is, everything has its places. Everything is a strength and weaknesses. Everything has a pros and cons, and words are no different than a double-edged sword or a tool. For example, you know, talking about a sword, right? A sword, what can you do with it? It can so be good, it can also be bad.
Sure.
Well, because it's a double-edged sword. That means that, hey, you could defend somebody or you can hurt somebody.
Or
You
chop
use a
down a tree
gun,
and go
you
get
can
food.
exactly. So anything we do, like for example, it's a tool. A tool can be used for good and used for bad.
Right.
And you know, you're talking about having a gun, right? A gun, hey, what's the first thing you think about gun? Respect the gun. Don't play with it, right? You use it appropriately. You use it
Right.
in the right in by design.
Right.
Whatever so you can abuse it. Hey, you can use it to do things that hurt yourself, shoot yourself in the foot, blah blah blah, all that. And you know, something with word. The words are just tool that most people can use it to hurt people, or can use it to do amazing thing, like you said. You know, where we express ideas and pass it on, and even have the idea be even you know, it grows even bigger, because
Right.
that just like what we do now with the our lessons learned from the reflection of the book. Hey, we have something we want to learn, and from you to me, you pass on the ideas, and I can take the ideas, say, well, I can churn it a little bit, and I can make it a little bit better, right? And that's
Right.
making ideas grow. And so that's the beauty of our minds and of our human species. You know, our human species, like I say, go back to another example of, you know, we have this ability to adapt. We have ability to, you know, think ahead, right? Meaning that a lot of time, for example, in the way that we communicate, when you say one thing, I'm understanding something different because I'm taking it like two,
Right.
3 steps further, because what you say, right, plus your tone, plus your what happens in the last 2 minutes, it gives me a ability to, I'm projecting this. I'm taking your word and maybe taking some kind of insinuation, right? Because and
Right.
a lot of time what we do is we get so used to it, because I say, you know, my life would have been better, you know, if this and that or whatever. I am blaming you, but not blaming you, right? I'm saying, hey, you know, I'm not saying it's your fault, but you know, it's your fault, kind of deal, you know. So that's the beauty of it. We can say things because sometimes we didn't mean to insinuate, but that's how it came across, and we
Right.
continue to communicate in that manner for years and years and years, and eventually everybody's doing it. Everybody's abusing the word. And so for me, it's like you're talking about the nonviolent communication. It's like, okay, well, what do I really mean, right? If I say I feel sad, right? I want to say I'm sad, but I don't want to say I'm sad because of you. Because if I'm saying, "Hey, I'm not very happy today with with how things are going," like I think, for example, hey, this company or whatever, I feel sad and because of how things are going. Because if I don't express it impeccably, it sounds as if I'm blaming you or I'm blaming something between us happens.
Right.
And that's the power of, so it's all power, but it's also our weakness because we can use it in the wrong way. And so the nonviolent communications is reminds me of, you're gonna have to be able to take the context and look at it from a non-opinionated perspective versus, hey, something happened and it was this versus, something happened. This is how I feel. I don't know why. I'm not saying it's you. I'm not saying me. I just don't know. This is how I feel. This is what I see, right? Versus people today, when we say something, hey, something went wrong, right? It's not of the same saying, same way we express ourselves and saying, I feel this, I feel that, I'm very angry, right?
Right.
Versus because something wrong, you going to say something that insinuate that, hey, the person I'm talking to is the one that is responsible for how I feel. You make me feel this way, versus I just feel this way because of circumstances, versus I feel this way because of you. So these are the contexts that people kind of receive, but they are not spoken. And I think there is the underlying unspoken meaning and context to the word that we hear today. And so we have to be able to choose our word carefully in terms of how we're going to state that, because I think really just because we feel one way doesn't mean that the other person is going to receive it in that way. So we have to say, how can we create the way we communicate in a way that it kind of like meets our wavelength, and but also the other person's feelings and wavelength as well. And that to me would be something that we want to be aware of when we're talking about communicating with someone. And like I said, it's a lot of times, if you don't understand the other person, like if you and me are meeting for the first time, then it's easy for you and me to misconstrue the intent, right? Just because you and I are known for each other for so long that whatever you say, I don't take it as a, you mean this or that, because I know you long enough that that's not the case.
Right.
But like if you're talking about to somebody who you just met, right? Most of the time, the way we say it's going to be interpreted in a completely different way. It's not like I'm talking like the majority of the time. It's like 99% of the time.
For sure.
It's going to be, hey, he's saying this, but I think he meant that. But the thing is, maybe that's the way that he communicated all the time, and that he used to be saying the same thing, or whatever the case may be. There's so much, I guess, assumptions and insinuation that we receive that it's just not the clear. So for us, especially when we meet somebody new, right? We have to be careful what we say, just like we have to be careful how we use a sword, how we use a gun. Similarly, we have to be careful how we use a word. And I really like the reflection title of, always be impeccable with your word, because I think sometimes we want to be authentic with ourselves, but we become a creature of habit, and we just pick up on these things because we just learn by watching and observing. So we always exude some of these I think things we absorb, and maybe that's not something we want to be perceived as, because hey,
we haven't really thought it through. I mean, like you just absorb stuff and you spout it back,
spit it out. You were reflecting it out, and then it may not be the true you that you want to be perceived as.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the idea that you may be discussing or trying to get across to somebody else, to share with them. Maybe you don't fully understand it yourself, like, but if you don't fully understand it yourself, like, you can't, like, that's where the whole feelings and needs and thoughts and, you know, sharing that stuff, like, if you, like, he talked a lot of different scenarios in this book around, you know, helping people to discover. A lot of times people don't even know what they feel, and aren't used to talking about these things, and even sharing how they feel inside, you know. And when you were talking, the whole thing the only thing I could think of was, if I was going to write a follow-up reflection to this one, one of the things I wrote down in my notes for this book was, they talked about observation versus evaluation, right? Like, the difference of what did I observe you do, you know, versus what did I interpret and evaluate, you know, like my wife and I, or something like that. Like, a great dynamic is, you know, I don't know, I don't go down, or for the in the mornings, like, she always, you know, takes care of Luca, and the night times I take care of Luca. But there's certain times during the day when I'm doing these kind of activities, you know, where she observes. If she was observing this, she would say, like, well, this is obviously really important for Chris. This is something that is really, you know, to his core of what he needs to do for a lot of other areas. If she were to ask me why I need to do this, I feel incredibly strongly that this is for our daughter, and this is how I spend time with our daughter every single day, and I need to do this. Like, I need to make sure that I connect with her every single day. I need to be able to have that time with her, and that's and when I'm living for two and living my core values and things like that, that's how I do that with her, and that's how I express that. But my wife might jump to an evaluation of, well, you just don't, you're just selfish. You just, you know, you're only doing this stuff for yourself and for your own intention and purposes, and everybody else comes secondary to you, and yada yada yada. And, like, but if she would just observe what I'm doing, I do the same thing every single day, and ask me, why are you doing this? How does it make you feel? Like, understand, you know, there would be an opening of a communication around that. And you know, obviously we've tried to have those communications. I wrote a book for her, you know, for her to better understand that. But to talk about how I feel and the need, and, you know, and all that other stuff. But I guess the point of why I'm bringing that up is, it's very easy to jump to an evaluation of why somebody does something else before, you know, just observing what they do, and
right,
asking them about that, and going that route.
And that's,
you know?
always the, I guess, the common trait that people are, you know, exuding in a society. And it's sad, just because, you know, you don't take the time to think about maybe there are other reasons why.
Right.
I remember
Or
you talked to me about you and Felicia when walking, and she was just crying, bawling, right? And you walking down the street with her, and then, if, you know, when people are passing by, well, what's the first thing they're gonna think of you?
I mean,
They can say, hey,
shit husband, you know, like,
exactly.
make my wife cry. Like, you know, what the hell's wrong with it? I mean, that's an evaluation, right? You know, versus an observation.
And but
Observation,
that is what we mean by using your word in impeccable, because, you know, somebody come by and say, hey, Chris, you know, you're an ass, dude.
Right.
Right. Why are you doing that? But the thing is, you know, because they don't take the time to think from a different perspective than their own. Like, maybe there's other way, right? So I need to think about it before I'm gonna go and, you know, knock Chris off on his feet, just because, you know, I feel like, you know, that's the mainly thing to do. Well, it turns out it's a whole different story that you know, that person would never even figure it out, right? And that's a shame. Same thing with the story in the book, uh 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You know, the father taking the bunch of kids on the train, and the three kids were, like, you know, jumping off the wall and whatever, right? And he was just sitting there, and he was like not doing anything, not saying anything, not controlling his kids, right? And it turns out that, you know, it's they just got back from the hospital, their moms in a hospital with terminal cancer, right? And that the dad has not in the right mind for him to do anything at that point, because, you know, it's devastating for him, but no one knew. Everybody thinks he's a, you know, a bad father, and, you know, that the kids were just like he was trying to distract the kids from thinking of the the worst thing. So he getting balloons and trying to get them to forget about the bad things, right? And
Yep.
so that a whole different story that you would never guess, because you are not able to stop and think about the different paradigms that may be happening to the event that you observe.
Right.
And that's a great way to think about in terms of using your words, because if you think about your words as a
Exactly.
simple power, right? And if you don't use it in the right design, right, proper way, then how are you any better than a gangster with a gun blaring without knowing what to shoot or how to shoot? It's bullets are flying everywhere. So how can you
I
say,
mean,
hey, I have this superpower and I don't know how to use it, and it flies, wherever it needs to fly, and it's just shooting bang, 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 right? So
yeah.
what would you think of yourself then?
I mean, it would be awful. I mean, like when you're like, the only thing I can think of is like, if you don't know, don't talk. Like, I mean, it's like in the vein of always be impeccable with your words. Like those situations you just described, do not speak to somebody unless the first thing, unless you already know like what's going on with that person's life. Like, I mean, hell, it could, one of my best friends could have been walking down the street that day and they would have known. They came over and probably gave us a hug, but
Right,
like,
but there's nothing wrong with trying to find out, right? It's not about trying to
yeah,
jump into conclusion and say, you're an ass, I'm gonna give you 1-2 punch into your face just
right,
because I feel like that's what you deserve, and I feel like that's what I should do, right? And
right.
so it's not it's like, if you are an ass and I find out you're an ass and I find proof that you're an ass, when you admit you're an ass, then it's not too late to punch you in the face.
Then I could, yeah, exactly, yeah, right. Like, I mean, then you can safely say, what,
But I
you're
don't
a
want to
jerk,
I don't
yeah,
want to be in the
right,
wrong and punch you, and then it turns out,
right,
you're just trying to be strong for your wife,
right.
right?
And I'm, yeah, that's why it's so important. Don't know, don't make definitive statements. Like, don't be impeccable with your words until you're ready to speak, until how you want to communicate something to somebody and you're sure of that. I would say it's probably better to withhold that. I mean, um that's something I've struggled with my entire life because I like to talk, but like at the same time, I'm slowly learning on this
Yeah.
journey to
I
be
mean,
more
it's
impeccable
like,
with my word,
I mean, it's
yeah,
like people are learning the words as if, you're a baby and you give a baby a gun, right? And eventually they figure out how to use it. No one is training this baby how to use a gun properly,
right,
right? And
right, yeah,
so
you're right,
words are just what, hey, TV, whatever. Hey, bang, bang, bang. I see cowboys on TV, bang, 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 right? So the kids come out and you go bang, bang, bang. Oh, I saw it on TV,
talk
right?
talk about TV and social media. Like, talk about Twitter and Facebook. Like, you can't ever have a nonviolent communication on one of those platforms if you get into a confrontation with somebody, because there's no way
That's why I
for an
say
exchange of
there's
feelings,
99% of the people aren't doing nonviolent communication. They don't even think twice what they say. They just say, and not only they say, but they say as if it's it's a
it's
fact, it's an
right,
action.
yeah, right, yeah,
This person is bad, and this person is nasty. This person is this and that. It's like, okay, we talk about people, what, and a lot of times they say this without even and without even think about how other people feel, and they can't even imagine if they could say to that person, to their face, when they meet in person, like whatever you say about anyone, whether, hey, I hate this person, or I hate this, right? They can't even say to their face, right?
right.
When you meet face to face, and they hide behind these computers and the type of the keyboards, and they say them, and so it makes it even worse nowadays. So you think about a world that basically we think of words as superpower, as a things, as a simple weapon, right? Because
Right.
war can do more like great things and deficit things. You're talking about like World War II, World War I, like the movements, all the movement is done by words, right?
Yeah.
You talk about I have a dream is done by word, and you talk about, you know, the how America become independence is by word as well, because
Right.
the word is what gets the American
Hey,
the
look at Roe
courage
versus
to
Wade
fight.
getting overturned just recently. That was just a bunch of words that somebody said is no longer valid, idea anymore, that we don't hold any value with around in this country.
Right.
Like
So
in
word
the uproar that
is to
causes,
me is a super weapon,
Right.
and no one is training you how to use it. That's
Right.
scary.
I couldn't agree more. Actually, if anything, we're being trained that words are the
Basically, people say, "Hey,
about
rocks and stone might break my bone. What, right?
well,
Word doesn't hurt me." Well, the thing is, that's not true.
I mean, I totally agree. The whole sentiment, the pen is mightier than the sword, or whatever, that you always heard when you were a kid growing up. Like,
Hmm.
I always thought that was a bit of a joke. Oh, that sounds cool. Like, yeah, of course, until you get stabbed, like, and you're gonna say the pen's really mightier than no. Like, as we've been on this journey, as I've been on this journey, as I've grown up, and you see, words do have the power to start movements to have, they're
Words,
so far, like,
words is everything. You
it
make
is, yeah,
money with it, right? You make money with it. You make movement with it. You change people's ideas with it. I mean, you change people how they behave with it. When you change everything, everything is done using word. Whether or
right,
not you are a thinker, or you are a general, or whatever, you want to conquer some kind of territory, you still got to use word to persuade people to work for you, to fight for you, to do things you want to do. You have to say, hey, we're on this mission, blah blah blah, right? I mean, the people with words commands great power, and this great power is not his own power, but the power of the people who can receive the ideas, and
right.
who can see it as a common goal, and that creates this big movement that is almost unstoppable.
It's,
And
I
so
mean,
to
it's
me, word are more than I mean, word are more than we know. It's unfathomable how much word can be influential in our life. And so for me, it's like a super weapon that we have, that no one has ever trained us to use properly, and we are using
That's
it.
a good point. I mean, I've never thought about that before. Like, we're trained in words. We're never really trained on how to communicate.
Whenever
Like,
you
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, yes, there's like, I think back in college, we took like a communications class, but that was really about giving presentations and how you do persuasive speaking or something like that. It's never been like the
And
power of
even
words
persuasive speaking, it's not even a requirement. It's just like somebody who's being creative. Hey, let's. It's an elective where you
right,
say,
right,
I want to take persuasive, speaking or
debate or
whatever,
whatever.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
mean, but you're totally right though. Like, I mean, interpersonal communication skills of, yeah, I mean, we're never taught that until, I mean, you just learn on the fly as you go. And you're right. Like, it's, and I have a feeling, I'm not a youth anymore, and I'm not in school. I mean, hell, your kids are in school, high school and stuff like that. So I feel like they're taught, the way that they're taught to use their words today is to immediately evaluate, like, to say, like, this
they are.
is how I evaluate the situation, and you're going to
No,
listen to
they,
me,
they are taught,
yeah,
like, yeah, I agree with you, but they are taught to react.
right,
And I am guilty of that as well in the past. I'm taught to react. I'm not taught to think about next step, whatever people think from a different perspective. I am talking about the reactions of, when people, something that affects me, right? The only angle I'm looking at is the angle that it comes to me as how I interpret it. Sometimes, most of the time, actually, it's not even the way it was meant. I just took it the wrong way,
right.
and I just take that and I use it, like, I push it back like tenfold, just because I thought it was, to harm me, or to make me feel bad, or whatever. It's we are taught in that way, and no one has, like I say, I mean, back to what I'm saying before, it's 99% of the people are taught to use a word and bounce it off and use it to hurt people and insinuate without saying, okay, I don't think this, I don't know for sure, but this is how I feel. There are many, many reasons why that could happen. And stating the non-personalization, you don't personify, you don't use a word to personify a person. You know, because
Right.
of this, because of him, because of her, because of them, because of us, because of we, whatever. We always personify something, right? And the fact is, if you want to get to the point, to the bottom of the, the issue, you need to say, well, these are things that I see, right? I don't know why, but this is what I see. So let's work together and do it. Versus, you're wrong. If you're wrong, that means I'm right. Or if
Right.
I'm right, that means you're wrong, right?
Right. Yeah. I
But the
mean,
thing
you're
is,
totally right.
if I say,
Yeah.
you and I have an argument, if I say I am right, that means you're wrong. So that's a step we take as far as how we perceive the word. But if I state that, hey, I think I'm right, but I'm not for sure, and I don't know if you're wrong or right either, right?
Right.
That kind of say, well, I'm not saying to you, this is what I feel. Let's discover it. Let's find out more
Yeah.
information.
Let's
So that's
communicate together and figure out if if there's a if we're aligned and how this all makes sense. I mean, like it's not rocket science, but I
yeah.
mean, it makes me think of a recent exchange I had with somebody at work. I think I told you about this one just on the side, but um, I made a mistake. It was an unintentional mistake, and there was a reason why I made that mistake. To be honest with you, I intentionally
Mhm.
made that mistake, but I didn't realize it was going to cause ramifications downstream. That person that it caused ramifications for downstream came at me hot about it, like throwing evaluations or after evaluations as to why that how that impacted him, and et cetera, et cetera. But now that as we're talking through this, like immediately, like the conversation could have been easily changed for both of us if it was if we had talked about why did this happen in the first place. This is what I observed. Like
Mhm.
this is how I've seen this stuff go on. Why did that happen? Like what were you why like what, tell me what your needs were that were not being fulfilled that caused you to do XYZ, because now it caused me to feel XYZ, like, I mean, that's just a totally different conversation. Like I would respect that, and I would go, I really appreciate this person sharing. I didn't realize that my mistake, made you feel that way, and I apologize for that. I will fix that. We will correct it going forward. It was totally, unintentional, like yada yada yada. Versus like immediately coming in and going, I'm so pissed off at you for this is, you did this on purpose and blah blah blah, or something along those
Mhm.
lines. Anyway, I'm just giving that I'm giving generalities of this particular scenario because I don't want to get into specifics of it, but it makes me think a lot about how even just basic situations like that can be so corrected by being more impeccable with your words,
Right.
of talking in a way where you're sharing how you feel and your needs and what even caused something to happen, versus just jumping into an evaluation and versus sticking with what you've seen and let's just talk through it, because who cares at the end of the day? You're right. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? Because neither one of us are probably right anyway, like, because we don't, as we talk about, we don't know
We
anything,
don't know
right?
shit.
So like,
And
I mean,
so there's no need to insinuate. And
right,
thing is, if you're talking about, trying to get what you want, right? Nonviolent communication that is really going to connect is going to be the best outcomes, because if you
yeah,
want something, right, you
exactly,
have to be able to connect on the other person's psychological level to say, well, I do see from your perspective and I do see from my perspective. How can we create win-win out of this? Versus if you insinuate, he's going to put a wall, and he's going to block, and he's going to fire back. So in
right,
the end, well, you're gonna have to waste your effort fighting this person, and you're not getting whatever you want. There's no benefit in you, so you're wasting
no,
time, and they don't benefit in the end. So in the end, you're working out less than you are at the first place. So
it's just a damaged
it
relationship at that point in time too. I mean, the erasure, the communication for the future has been eroded. You know, like I mean,
it's
I don't
just
want to communicate with you in the
destructive.
future.
I
Right.
mean, like, go back to what I'm saying before is, you talk about a simple weapon, like a powerful gun or whatever it is, and you using it willy-nilly. Well, what do you think happens? All around you are all, bullet holes are everywhere,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so you can't really. So the thing, if you think about it, if you have a gun, I'm not saying a gun is a super weapon or anything about, but you're talking about words, it's like 1,000 times more a
Yeah,
gun,
you
a million
fire a
times
bullet
more
at
a
somebody,
gun,
they're gonna
right?
remember it. You know.
But the thing is, a person with a gun who is probably trained, he's not gonna shoot like a policeman. He's not gonna shoot unless it's absolutely needed, and he's gonna shoot the target he intended to shoot. And it was by design the way he fired. He's not gonna fire willy nilly just
Right.
because he could. But that's what we're doing with the words. What we do, it's like we don't always say, I saw a shadow, bang,
No,
right?
you're right.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's
I thought I saw something, bang, right? And that's how we are using our words today. So, right? Can you identify the target before you shoot? Maybe is that too much to ask? And I think that's an analogy that I would see in my head. And I'm a simple man and person, so that's how I see in terms of it's for your benefit to be able to harness the power of this super weapon that we have. And if you can do that, it is gonna do you a whole lot of good.
oh
And
yeah,
it's gonna do other people a whole lot of good as well. And
you
so,
can you can you
that's
can
what I'm saying is I leave you with that to think about, to marinate in your head and see if that makes sense to you.
100% agree. I mean, so the question that we posed at the end of this one is how often do you stop and think about the power of your words? You know,
Mhm.
or just what you're about to say to somebody. Like, I mean, how often do you think about your communication? Because like you said, you know, we're not, you know, it's not something we're really taught. We're kind of all working on the fly and you know, learning life shooting from the hip a little bit, I guess, if you will, of best communication styles. But I think this is something, if you gave it some conscious thought more regularly and leverage tools like nonviolent communication, other forms of communication, the whole goal is just to be able to connect with somebody else at the end of the day and to build each other up versus tear each other down. So you know, yeah, stop and think sometimes, and I think you'll be happy for it at the end of the day. With that though, looking forward to our conversation tomorrow. Any other final thoughts before we jump?
Like I said, think about words as a super weapon, a super power, right? Are you using it by design? Or are you using it willy-nilly? So
Good
with
thought.
that, the comment below if you agree or not, and then think about it. Like if you have some super weapon, how will you use it, right? And if you are using it today, and now that this is super weapon, are you using it correctly in the past? According to you, I'm not saying here according to anyone. According to you, do you think you're using it correctly?
You know, I mean, I know we were wrapping this one up, but like going back to the whole atomic bomb theme, I guess, if you will. I mean, in theory, some people's words do have the power to kill as many people as an atomic bomb could kill potentially, or something along those lines.
Or
You know,
more?
so if you
I
ever
mean,
think about your words,
the whole species, whole race
right?
can be erased. And I think even in the past, there are a lot of more race and different subspecies that we have destroyed by saying, hey, this and that or whatever. The power of the word make that happen.
Yeah.
Somebody say, this person or that person is threatening us, we need to kill it. Or we like ivory because it gives us sexual power or whatever. It's basically a lie, but everybody cuts down the tusk of elephants until it become extinct, right? That's the kind of power of the word, because it's used incorrectly, because somebody say something and there's no proof of any of this benefit, but they go and they have poachers trying to bring down the elephant, kill him just for the tusk.
I just finished this book today. It's called The Elephant Whisperer, and I loved it. It was such a good book and really made me a huge fan of elephants, and I can't wait to write about it tomorrow. So you're already piquing my interest. But yeah. I mean, I guess what I was the final statement I was gonna make is, if your words are an atomic bomb, like, and like a literal atomic bomb, like, remember, if you're gonna go to the negative side of your words and the potential atomic bomb effect of it, like, think of them as a literal atomic bomb. Like, would you drop it? You know, like, because
Yeah,
that's a that you
and
can't
you
go back
also
from
know
that,
need to know
Yeah.
where you drop it, because if you drop
Right.
it in a range where you're standing, well, it hurts you too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it's powerful either way.
Yes.
But all right. Well, thanks for joining us, and yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Good night.